Broadcasting from Manhattan Beach and the World Wide Web, you're listening to CHSR, HealthyLife.net.
As a service to our listeners, this program is for general information and entertainment purposes only. CHSR HealthyLife.net does not recommend, endorse, or object to the views, products, or topics expressed or discussed by show hosts or their guests. We suggest you always consult with your own personal, medical, financial, or legal advisor.
Greetings, you're listening to Guiding Stars. This is Kristin Fontana, your host, and I'm here with Rose Marcus from Vancouver, Canada, to discuss the transits for the month of May. Welcome back, Rose.
Thank you, Kristin.
And we are recording this at the end of the month, just a few days before the new moon eclipse in Taurus. It will be aired on April 29th, Friday. And so perfect timing to talk about the eclipses.
Yeah.
The wild ones.
The wild ones.
Every 6 months we get a visit from these lunar skies, and we receive the energy, and we're a part of, for sure, a pretty wild portal. And for many of us, I know for myself, we talked a little bit about this before we went live, that there's just been a lot going on already, which is par for the course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And eclipses are more potent new moons or full moons, and they are accelerators. So they move the energy along faster. They move the circumstances or the process of whatever it is that's going on for you a lot faster. They jettison you someplace. Oftentimes they bring the unexpected.
Yes, and I have already heard stories on both extremes. How about you?
Oh, yeah. I'm shocked this week that my daughter has gotten a new job, and the way that whole thing has played out has been really accelerated and really fast, and everything's dropped into place. And it's also been wonky because it's picking up the energy of the upcoming Mercury Retrograde, too. So this really mixed bag all at once has been fantastic because the eclipse, the solar eclipse, is in the sign of Taurus. And it's pretty unique. It has a couple of very unique things, and that's on the 30th. And it takes place at 1:27 p.m. in Pacific Daylight Time, so you'll have to make an adjustment for wherever you are on the planet. But there are a couple of really interesting things that are aligned with this solar eclipse, and it is a partial eclipse. But it's in the sign of Taurus, and Taurus has everything to do with what has value and meaning. And, of course, it deals with financial things, and we're at the end of the month of tax season, I guess, so there's that happening as well, too. But Taurus is ruled by planet Venus, and Venus happens to be in the sign of Pisces, which is its higher octave. Venus is the ruling planet of Taurus, and well aligned with Pisces. And on the eclipse, Venus will be conjunct Jupiter, which is currently traveling through the sign of Pisces. So Jupiter is a planet of increase. It expands. It creates some kind of opportunity or some kind of growth. And when we have Venus and Jupiter together, we have amped up potential, amped up opportunity. Whatever it is quite valuable or worthwhile or worthy or expensive, whatever it might be. I think that very interesting with Taurus, which is an earth sign, that Venus and Jupiter in Pisces, all of that potential, there's an amped up opportunity to turn the potential into the reality. Right?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And that is totally lovely.
It's obviously going to play out differently depending on where this is landing in your chart, and very specific to what Taurus is ruling in your chart, where is it? What's it activating there? But there's two of my favorite pieces to this, and you mentioned them, but I will restate kind of my whole feeling about it, and that is, that this sun and the moon will be exactly forming a sextile to Mars, and Mars is the driving force in our life. It's our desire nature. It's in Pisces, so sometimes there's opportunities that are hidden that can be revealed during an eclipse. And, so because Mars has to do with what we want, Venus, which rules the sign of Taurus, connects to what we need, really in practical ways. So it's an interesting mix because on the one hand, it's about what holds value and meaning to us, what we need on a very basic level. But with Mars involved in Pisces, it can also be energizing the dream for you, something beyond what you have right now that just really raises your life experience, or maybe not even something you imagined could happen for some. And Jupiter and Venus, of course, pairing up in a new phase. Actually, they're balsamic right at the time of the eclipse. Is it like 45 minutes later, I think Venus moves in front of Jupiter. Did you see that?
Yeah, absolutely. I even wrote it down, I think. It is. It's very shortly afterwards, right? So yeah, awesome that it does that. And I might have said this, I think, in the last show as well, too. Venus is on this move along. And the first thing that it has done is, I'm just looking for I haven't quite got it in front of my nose right now, but Venus is a faster moving planet than Jupiter and Neptune, right? And Neptune's in the sign of Pisces, and Venus conjoins with Jupiter first, and then in the days before, and then is moving towards that conjunction with Jupiter. Balsamic energy is a significant seeding influence at the level that it's at, right? So the potency of this eclipse is so dynamic, and as you said, that angle between Mars and the eclipse itself, the 60 degree, the sextile archetype is one of creative opportunity, right? So it's just it's so repeated in this transit, and it is worth noting as well too that the eclipse is 10 degrees Taurus, so wherever that might be happening in your chart, and it is in balsamic relationship to the transiting lunar node, the north node sitting at 22 degrees Taurus. And in between the two of those is Uranus at 14 degrees Taurus. So this eclipse, as I've said many times when we've discussed eclipses, is that it can be event generating when it takes place, but it operates over a duration of time. So as the sun and moon move forward, well, the moon will do that quite rapidly. The next day will be conjunct Uranus and moving to a conjunction with the north node and so on. The sun will take a few more days to get there. So we have an extended period of time for the promise of the solar eclipse to deliver in the short term, in the immediate, the days that follow. And of course, eclipses have a duration of time. They are extending over months, years. Generally, we say 2 to 3 years, but you don't really feel it after the first 3 to 6 months, or don't notice as much because it's more integrated, or you're already up and running with whatever it is. You're not noticing the inception of that because you're busy doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So. I think you had mentioned Venus coming over. You said Jupiter, and then Jupiter. It was Venus just came over Neptune. And it's literally like it's like an Oreo cookie. There, it's the white center in between.
Yeah, so, and sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I couldn't put my hands on it. I just did. So we are pre-recording, and this will air on the 29th. Venus and Neptune conjoined on the 27th of April. And on the eclipse, the 30th, Venus and Jupiter conjoin.
Yes. So This is what I was imagining very much. Of course, eclipse energy we're already in the midst of it. It's for many days we've all been feeling it. The precise moment, or even the day, of course, is even more powerful. We talk about it being like a portal opening, and for 2 weeks the energy just becomes hypersensitive, and a lot more can happen than maybe could happen otherwise. But to have it go from balsamic at the time of the eclipse to, really less than an hour, minutes later, to a new phase, it really can mean on that day or shortly thereafter that something can finally be clear on your path.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to say, out of nothing comes something. Mm-hmm. And that's the Pisces archetype. And I have heard a lot of people feel drained or disillusioned or confused or uncertain. All of that is definitely Pisces influence. And we do have Mars moving through the sign of Pisces right now. But at any moment, suddenly clarity, suddenly inspiration, suddenly whatever, right? And off to the races you go.
Exactly. Yeah, out of nothing comes something. Out of what you feel is nothing comes something. Something was already on its way. Yeah. But when we don't know, that's why I think for so many people are attracted to astrology, because when you're feeling in that kind of foggy place and you're not sure, it's funny, I've heard from a lot of Pisces who are feeling this way still. Because Venus is still behind Jupiter and the eclipse has not happened. So a lot of fogginess I've been hearing, from Pisces in particular. You've got Neptune, Venus, and Jupiter. Venus and Jupiter being the two most benevolent planets we have, and Neptune being the ruler of Pisces. So something hasn't quite landed yet or come to fruition or exposed itself, shown itself. So I definitely feel like on the other side of this eclipse, like I said, it doesn't mean that something magical will happen if you're energized or barking up the wrong tree. It's not going to just become the right tree. But if you have been energizing the right things, really beautiful things can manifest.
Yeah, and along with the eclipse, there are two more important things to mention as well, too. And on the 29th of April, Pluto stations retrograde.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, it's stationing retrograde. It's traveling through the sign of Capricorn. So, it's stationing retrograde in the sign of Capricorn. And that is an intensification signature right there. Capricorn is ruled by planet Saturn, and Saturn is in square to the nodal axis, and the nodes are where the eclipses happen along. So Uranus is in the sign of Aquarius, and the Uranus position really is, I meant to say Saturn is a component of all of the eclipses of the year. We are in the spring season of eclipses, April 30th, May 15, and then we have two more in the fall, October 25th and November 8th. And so when we have Saturn squaring the lunar nodes, then we have the potential for a breakthrough. Again, it is an accelerating kind of a, bust up the concrete, and Saturn can give a shift of consciousness or a shift of reality, right? Whether inner breakthrough or a circumstance outer breakthrough, it has great potential. And I think that the Pluto position stationing retrograde punches up that influence of Saturn as well too, right? So, this eclipse is it's a partial eclipse, which isn't supposed to be as potent as a total eclipse, but I think it's got quite a kick to it.
Oh, absolutely, because of all the other energies that are involved. Mm-hmm. We also have Mercury changing signs on that day.
Yes, that's the other thing.
Oh.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mercury is moving into the sign of Gemini, and it's in the sign of Taurus right now. And although Mercury in Taurus is a good placement for evaluating, assessing what it is that is worthy an investment of your time, heart, or money. Once Mercury moves into Gemini, it's mobilizing, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Giving you options.
Giving you options, yes, absolutely. So, this is a whole process, and Taurus is about feeling your way along. You keep going with it. I'm thinking about how you feel things, and as you move forward, it kind of you get that definition out of your fingers. It's an odd memory that I have, but when I was a kid. My grandparents used to go over to my grandparents' place, and they used to get margarine. The margarine came in these plastic bags. I don't know if anybody's old enough to remember this, but it came in these plastic bags with a dot of red in the center. It was like red ink or something. As kids, we always had fun being able to, play around with those plastic bags until we got the margarine the right color.
Oh my God! No way. That does not sound good.
But it just reminded me of that. It's like this Taurus idea of feeling your way along. The Pisces energy of like it being nebulous, not being certain, not being quite sure. But with all that Taurus, the eclipse in Taurus, and so on, it is as you feel your way along, you become informed, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's giving you more information.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Strange memory to come up with. Such is the nature of Pisces.
So this is what happens. So maybe more information comes to light, right? That's Mercury and Gemini. It's information. When we have information, we feel more empowered with our life. I mean, information is power, they say. Information helps us make decisions, good decisions, better decisions for ourselves. So, Mercury's going to move along and then slow down and go retrograde. So as more becomes exposed, more is revealed, more is shown, then this retrograde puts you into a position where you're going to be maybe being able to rethink how you move forward.
Absolutely. And there's one more piece of this solar eclipse as well, too, and this happens on the day of the eclipse, on the 30th, too, is that Ceres is currently in the sign of Gemini, and it forms an exact trine with Saturn in Aquarius, which is lovely. And Ceres has a energy that is quite like Pluto in terms of transformative and transmuting, metamorphosizing, shape-shifting. Again, it's a suggestion of that various pieces come together with that Ceres Saturn trine. You have a piece of information over here and a piece of information over here, and all of a sudden it all falls into place for you so that you can string the whole sentence together.
Wow, that's right. It is very true, missing pieces to something, because we're recovering steps, recovering knowledge, recovering something from the before that we didn't know, right?
Yeah.
In order to make you feel more secure about how to move forward.
And,
so yeah.
Yeah, and you could pick up a conversation where you needed to flesh it out more. To go back over something, which is what Mercury retrograde allows for, too, to go back over something. This Ceres Saturn trine allows for you to continue the conversation and add to it.
Well, that's practically exact, almost to the minute, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's so close.
Yeah.
All right, that sounds great. I mean, this is, when we include asteroids here, so look at Ceres, it looks like 24 degrees and 13 minutes. Saturn is 24 degrees and 15 minutes. I mean, how close can you get? But the asteroids fill in even more of the detail, more of the blanks. They're restating, in many ways, what we're already seeing. And so I love it. I love using them. I love working with them to kind of just sweeten the pot a little bit, So
Yeah, and I do think of Ceres as a seeding influence as well, too, right?
Definitely.
So you can be seeded with some great ideas, you can be seeded with some great inspiration, right? And this also, the fact that Saturn's in the sign of Aquarius and Mercury's just moved into Gemini, does have that suggestion of new information coming in or something alternate that might just fit the bill for you.
It feels contractually binding at the same time, like, maybe you're able to sign a contract, whether it's for a home or a job or a new position, or maybe you've been in a new job on a trial basis, and it's just going really well, and they're like, okay, we want to sign you for 2 more years, right? So you're getting that security, versus maybe not knowing where you stand and then finally knowing where you stand. Definitely a securing energy there. You can see with Ceres squaring, Neptune, that there's confusion, right, leading up to that, to that eclipse potentially, where the curtains part or open, and you can finally see what's going on backstage. That's a gift. All right, we'll be right back after the break.
Find out about Kristin Fontana and get your free weekly astrological forecast on her website, KristinFontana.com. Read articles written by the founder of evolutionary astrology, Jeffrey Wolf Green. Evolutionary astrology is a spiritual perspective astrology from Pluto's point of view, and what a view it is. You can even order a detailed personalized chart that tells you about your past, present, and future. You'll also discover where and when Kristin's upcoming conferences, workshops, and appearances will be on KristinFontana.com. That's Kristin, Fontana.com.
Okay, you're stressed. You need a little R&R. Wouldn't going to a spa help? There's all kinds of spas, too. Destination spas, medical spas, day spas, even dental and mobile spas. Where do you find the right spa at the right price? Oh, no, more stress? Well, not anymore. Visit spafinders.com. At spafinders.com, you'll find everything you need to know about spas from around the world. So de-stress. Click on spafinders.com right on our homepage. Oh, I'm feeling relaxed already.
What would happen if you didn't follow the established path? Would you feel scared or proud? Could you explain that helping the people of Peru improve their own community would also have an effect on your own? Would you rather make your own way or spend a lifetime saying, what if? Life is calling. How far will you go? Peace Corps. To find out more, call 1-800-424-8580 or go to peacecorps.gov.
Water. In the hot summer sun, water is a natural thought, like relaxing at the beach with the waves lapping at your feet, or perhaps being with your significant other under a secluded, gently cascading waterfall. If you want a little more action, how about water skiing or boating on an icy, clear blue lake? With Expedia.com, everything you need for travel, flights, hotels, cruises, vacation packages, they have it all at a price you can afford. Go to HealthyLife.net's advertiser page and click on Expedia.com.
I'm William Shatner, and this is Jimmy. Animals like Jimmy are often left behind by people fleeing hurricanes, fires, floods, and earthquakes. These abandoned animals cannot survive on their own. If you must evacuate your home, please never leave an animal behind. If you absolutely cannot take your animal with you, never leave him helplessly chained or caged. Many animals die because they cannot escape fires or rising waters. Animals need your help. Thank you.
Call PETA today, 757-622-PETA.
HealthyLife.net, the positive radio network.
All right, we are back. I'm here with Rose Marcus from Vancouver, Canada, and we were discussing the eclipses and the energy this May. You had something to add.
Well, you brought up contract, which, yes, and there's one more thing to talk about. Contracts. The contract asteroid, Juno, Juno is a marriage asteroid, but I always consider it as the contract or covenants asteroid, so it has jurisdiction over all types of contracts. And it is in the sign of Pisces. For the eclipse, it's at 3 degrees of Pisces. It just moved into that sign. And Mercury is going to retrograde in Gemini on the 10th, and it will retrograde at 4 degrees, and both Mercury and Juno are on a move along. So Mercury is going to turn retrograde just before it makes the square to that Juno. And then as it retrogrades and Juno is moving forward, it won't be until the end of June that they meet by square and that Mercury surpasses that square. So if you are working towards making a commitment, signing a contract, if you're doing real estate or some kind of transaction like that, or a job or what have you, it might take time. You might go through, like with Mercury and Gemini, you might go through several interviews, all of that kind of stuff. So you might put it into your thinking patterns that whatever is on the go right now in terms of getting the contract completed or getting yourself acclimatized to the new program that you're undertaking, whatever the new program is, or new circumstance, or whatever it might be, new way of thinking or seeing or getting involved in whatever way you are. Might take you to the end of June before you're really settled with it, anchored with it, figure out how you're going to take it to the next level.
All right, and so is the end of June reflecting you're clearing the shadow of the retrograde?
Yeah, I think that's happening a little bit earlier than
prior to that.
Yeah, about the middle of the month. So you'll be out of the Mercury retrograde shadow by about the midweek of June, but give it another couple weeks to move forward with this Mercury and Juno square.
So a lot of times people will ask, oh my goodness, Mercury's going to be retrograde. We're in the middle of these eclipses. Should I not be signing something? And I would say, in general, that's true because it could change a few times. But if you are returning to something from the past, it is fine. If you were born with Mercury retrograde, it might be a great time to sign something. So, there's definitely caveats to the whole theme of that. And it's a good thing to keep those things in mind, and also maybe to not to make sure you have all your information. To not sign right away until you do have all your information is another message within that.
Yeah, well, and I think it's quite complex this time because on the day that Mercury turns retrograde, Jupiter advances into Aries. And so Jupiter in Aries, that's something new. That's getting out.
Wow, yeah.
Getting out the gate with something new, and yet Mercury is stationing retrograde. And when is that? Let me just see here. So Mercury stations retrograde on the 10th, and this is Pacific daylight time at 4:47 a.m., and Jupiter enters Aries by 4:21 p.m., so just about 12 hours later. Right?
Wow, same day.
Yeah, so that's quite interesting. And sometimes with Mercury retrograde, retrograde is a revisit, relive, of course, as we know. That might be that you are starting something new that is of something from the past, that you're starting something new with, and that could be this lifetime past or some other lifetime past, because the retrogrades always do bring us back someplace, right?
Yes.
So you might be starting something brand new. And maybe, Kristin, I think you would agree with me on this, that, of course, we know the Mercury retrograde, Murphy's Law stuff, but I think that Mercury retrograde has been a little bit commercialized in terms of what the public knows about that. Oh, can't do anything for, the next 3 weeks. Sometimes you can't stop life.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes you got to do it.
Sometimes you got to do it, right? So not to stress if it is a necessity for you to proceed then proceed. But recognize that that things might not run smoothly, especially at the start of the Mercury retrograde cycle, right? So I always advocate for giving yourself more time, keeping your schedule loose, diminish your expectations that it's going to be this or that, and added flexibility is always what does the trick, right? Yeah,
definitely. Flexibility, for sure. That's a very mercurial word, period.
Yeah.
Adaptability and flexibility, immutability. Yeah.
Yeah. And because certainly Jupiter in Aries is a go button of some kind.
My goodness. While you were talking, too, I was looking really quickly to see, so Jupiter comes all the way up to 8 degrees of Aries and stations retrograde on July 29th. And so that's how much time you have to really set fire to something. When Jupiter then goes retrograde in Aries and it will back into Pisces, is it 4 months that it's retrograde?
To the middle of October.
Middle of October, typically around that. So August, September, October, that's like 3. Oh.
Yeah.
God, it was more like 4. But anyway.
Sorry, it is retrograde until November 23rd. I have a note here.
Yeah, 4 months, just about 4 months. So, and it's important to understand that, everything goes retrograde except for the sun and the moon. But, so it's not necessarily a negative thing. It's especially with Jupiter in Aries, if things are just going, if things are just on fire in your life, you're going to appreciate the retrograde, right? A little slow down, take a little break on the mountain and observe the distance you've covered and just make sure that you're right where you want to be. But real quickly, before we kind of go into this next eclipse coming, do you know how far back Jupiter goes into Pisces? Is it just 28 degrees, just to the end?
Yeah, it goes just back to 28 degrees. Let me just see here. In November, and that will be...
On the 23rd of November, it will station in Pisces at that point.
Yeah, and it will be in Pisces until December 20th, when it will move back into Aries, and it'll be in Aries for the first quarter of... so on a fast move along right at the moment, so it'll be by middle of May-ish, it'll leave Aries for Taurus, but finish out the year here with that Jupiter retrograde Pisces to begin with, and then turning direct in November 23rd.
Of 2023, yeah.
Of 2022, yeah.
So think about this. So eclipses come in pairs, and we were just talking about the fact that Jupiter and Venus will be conjunct at 27 degrees and change Pisces on this eclipse on Saturday, April 30th. Very auspicious. Jupiter goes into Aries and retrogrades back and stops at the 28-degree mark, pretty much the same degree that it's at right now.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So there's something intimately connected between what is going on right now in your life and what is happening the third week of November, how it will circle back. And so that degree is important.
Yeah, and really to say that most of this year is a circle back.
Yeah, it is.
So to know that each moment is infused with great potential, and what you are doing right now is setting something up that is going to continue on a developmental curve through the end of this year and into the spring of next year.
Great. All right, so we are going to share more about now the total lunar eclipse right after the break.
Find out about Kristin Fontana and get your free weekly astrological forecast on her website, KristinFontana.com. Read articles written by the founder of evolutionary astrology, Jeffrey Wolf Green. Evolutionary astrology is a spiritual perspective astrology from Pluto's point of view, and what a view it is. You can even order a detailed, personalized chart that tells you about your past, present, and future. You'll also discover where and when Kristin's upcoming conferences, workshops, and appearances will be on KristinFontana.com. That's Kristin, Fontana.com.
Have you ever wondered why you are here on this planet and what the point to all of this is? Evolutionary astrology is a natural science that allows for an understanding of the evolutionary journey of the soul from life to life. Evolutionary astrology provides a vehicle to understand prior life dynamics that have led to the reason and purpose for the life you live. It offers a depth of information and insights about each person that no other type of astrology can provide. As Jeffrey Wolf Green, the founder of Evolutionary Astrology, says,
for those who wish to unveil the depth of who you actually are, I would highly recommend that you seek out qualified evolutionary astrologers such as Kristin Fontana and other graduated students of the School of Evolutionary Astrology. For those who are considering becoming an astrologer to make it a natural career, I'd recommend that you consider Jeffrey Wolf Green's School of Evolutionary Astrology, where it will assist you in answering and your clients answering a big question. Why am I here? Thanks for listening, and God bless.
Okay, you're stressed. You need a little R&R. Wouldn't going to a spa help? There's all kinds of spas, too. Destination spas, medical spas, day spas, even dental and mobile spas. Where do you find the right spa at the right price? Oh, no, more stress? Well, not anymore. Visit spafinders.com. At spafinders.com, you'll find everything you need to know about spas from around the world. So de-stress. Click on spafinders.com right on our homepage. Ah, I'm feeling relaxed already.
Whether you're taking a short trip or traveling across the world, Magellans.com is the world's most trusted source for travel, and they guarantee 100% satisfaction. They have everything you need to make travel just a bit more pleasurable. Who doesn't like that? They have travel alarms, clothing, the best luggage, wallets, everything you need except the ticket. Visit the advertiser page on healthylife.net and click on Magellans now. You will not only see their travel products, but get a free catalog and read articles with tips on how to make your travel easier. Visit the advertiser page and click on Magellans now.
HealthyLife.net, where positive overcomes negative.
We have returned. I'm here with Rose Marcus. We are discussing the transits from May, eclipse season, and we discussed in pretty good degree that first one on, well, it's just going to be tomorrow by the time you're listening on April 30th, Saturday. Or if you're catching this after the fact, you'll already be in the window, and it doesn't mean you missed anything. Things are still going on all month, even into early June, I am sure. So, are you ready to talk about the second one?
Yeah. So the second one, and let me just say that probably said this before, but each year we have an eclipse season, about 6 months apart, and generally we have a new moon and a full moon in one season and so on, and we can have up to 6 or 7 eclipses in a year. This year we only have 4, but both of the solar eclipses are partial, and both of the lunar eclipses are total. So the May 15th eclipse is a total lunar eclipse. And let me see, the time is 9:13 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, so that might be the 16th for you, depending on your location on the planet. And so the eclipse takes place at 24 degrees of Scorpio, 24.5 of Scorpio, Taurus, and if you have any planets that are at those fixed degrees of Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, this is going to be a dynamic eclipse for you. And at the time of the eclipse, we have Saturn in square to the eclipse. So that is, again, as I said, it is relevant to the solar eclipse as well, too. You're standing at a threshold crossing of significance, and when we have Saturn in Aquarius, it can be a total reinvention of whatever the intention, consciousness, or reality is, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so the solar eclipse was in relationship to the North Node, And that solar eclipse on April 30th is in balsamic relationship, or the North Node is in balsamic relationship to the Sun-Moon, which is, again, a time of seeding. And the total lunar eclipse, the Moon is in new phase to the South Node, and the Sun is in new phase to the North Node. So we would suspect, as you just said a few moments ago, that you are likely to be seeing what the action is of this lunar eclipse by then, for sure, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So describe the total versus the partial for people if they don't know.
Well, so a partial eclipse is where the apparition is not going to completely block out the sun or the moon, and a total eclipse will be in tighter orb to the transiting nodes, so it gives more potency to whatever it might be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let me also say that for the total lunar eclipse, Jupiter will have moved into Aries, so we have a new dynamic happening there.
Mm-hmm.
Venus, by the way, we didn't mention this yet, but on the 2nd of May, Venus moves into Aries, so right after the eclipse, the solar eclipse in Taurus, which I spoke about a few moments ago. The ruling planet, Venus, is in the sign of Pisces for that solar eclipse conjunct Jupiter. It will move into Aries on the 2nd of May, and it will continue in Aries to the 28th of May, so it's a fast mover through the chart. So that shifts the energy, of the focus for the North Node for the Sun in Taurus to an Aries-driven initiative, right? So we've got Venus in Aries, we've got Jupiter in Aries. Again, this is, as you said, lighting fires, right? And so it can get you where we've got such an energy drain right now. You could get really passionate about diving in. You could get very hot and decide that you want to take on a battle of whatever kind you want because you feel totally justified for it. It's going to give you. It's about putting courage and initiative into action, right? It's again breaking new ground, right? Which is what
definitely
that Saturn square the nodes is all about, breaking new ground. The moon's relationship to that Saturn is in terms of not building more of the past. It is about allowing for something new to come in, and the sun is on the trigger for exactly that, for taking a risk on something new, for breaking new ground for yourself, for being more of a risk taker, for putting courage into action.
Yeah, for sure. That is so intense, that full moon is a total lunar eclipse in Scorpio. We can't think of a more powerful sign to really break out of old patterns and dynamics. It's sitting right on the South Node, right on the past, squaring Saturn in Aquarius. It's just begging, pushing, demanding some kind of radical breakthrough for you emotionally. Because when you emotionally make that shift, then the outer events will follow. The other thing I find fascinating about this lunar eclipse is that Neptune and Mars are in Pisces, they're conjunct, and they're also balsamic. So something is finishing from the past. Mars will move in front of Neptune within, the 2 days that follow it or something. But those two planets, Mars and Neptune, in Pisces, trining this lunar eclipse, giving you the high road, the opening. Mars, once it moves, maybe you don't even know what that is until Mars moves in front of Neptune, which will be what, the 17th?
The 17th is when they conjunct. Yes, absolutely. And one other thing about that Mars-Neptune conjunction, or the position of Mars in particular, is, again, and I said this in a lecture that I did quite recently, is that I'm watching that 23 degrees, because that is the degree of the conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune on April 12. That was that big grand conjunction that starts a whole new 166-year transit, starts a whole new 13-year transit, and Mars is going to come back again. That 23 degrees of mutable signs, 23, 24 degrees is going to be continually triggered over the whole course of this year into next year, and that's just what you were talking about, circling back, right? So again, full of potential, more hidden potential, more hidden wealth than you may have in your mind's eye right now.
Mm-hmm. Right? So if you've got a 23-degree, a planet in a water sign in particular, I would say, or an earth sign, perhaps at that degree mark, it's going to be even more impactful. It's actually the 18th when Mars moves in front of Neptune. I just checked. They are conjunct on the 17th of May.
Oh, at the end of the day, 11:32 p.m.
Way end. Yeah, so, Pacific time it's going to be, and where most places, going east, will be Mars moving in front of Neptune. Feeling more empowered, feeling more courageous, maybe feeling more confident. Even though Mars is still in Pisces, it is in front of Neptune. When Mars enters Aries, now that's going to be another story. So we'll be right back to talk about that.
HealthyLife.net, where positive overcomes negative.
All right, we have returned and discussing the May transits 2022, or the very end of April with the solar eclipse and the total lunar eclipse on the 15th of May. And right before the break, I was discussing Mars's movement in front of Neptune. It's almost like this whole period of time, there's this fog, and then it clears. More fog, then it clears. It's just like going back and forth. And then Mars obviously loves to be in Aries. It loves to be in its own sign, and it loves even to be conjunct Jupiter because it gives it even more, which is what's coming.
Yeah, and the relationship between the south node where the eclipse moon is, and that Mars Neptune, it really is in an actionable trine, so to speak. And whenever we have Scorpio, it is going to zero in on the most important, the most grand
bottom line,
right? The bottom line. So it's very well targeted. And, of course, Scorpio is going to unearth something, uncover something that is incredibly valuable for you to be accessing at this point in time. And, of course, as we've said before, the eclipses are extremely potent or, very strong catalysts if they're making direct contact with your chart. If they are not, then you're going to witness it indirectly to what's going on in the world or to other people that you're close to or so on.
Definitely.
So there's that. And another thing with this this total lunar eclipse is the position of Jupiter is at 0 degrees of Aries, and Ceres has just moved into 0 degrees Cancer. So again, another trigger point of threshold crossing of significance, right? Something that is. Lunar eclipses are for revelations and illuminations and breakthroughs, and they lunar eclipses can bring something out into the open, and it can bring you to an end point, or it can bring you to a springboard of something next, right? Got both of those things going.
Right, absolutely, and there's going to be another new moon. Is it the 29th of May?
Yes.
Okay. So on that day is when Mars then moves in front of Jupiter in Aries. That day feels specific and important. Mercury, which rules the new moon in Gemini, will be trining Pluto. This is Memorial Day weekend here. So Sunday, Monday, 29th, 30th of May, also part of this whole plan. I mean, this is It's just all wrapped up in some kind of story for you. It's unwrapping a story, perhaps. It's beating something, culminating one thing, and bringing about something new on the other side. I loved how you actually used that expression of that Neptune and Mars, that this total lunar eclipse prior to that is well targeted. Mm-hmm. Targeted is such a Mars word, and it's targeting. It's receiving that energy. It's like an arrow in a sense. It's like lighting a match. It's like you said, Scorpio is all. It's going to pull out and expose exactly what needs to be confronted or addressed or removed or eliminated. So much more than can be brought about with Jupiter and Mars and Aries at the end of the month. So we are in transition. It feels like such culminating and then new phase energy happening, like toggling almost back and forth. Something's healing, something's closing, something's birthing itself, almost all at the same time.
Yeah, and on the 22nd of May, Mercury retrograde backs into Taurus. And for the duration of its transit through in retrograde to when is it, the 3rd of June, when it will end retrograde, it will stay in trine to Pluto, which is in the sign of Capricorn, throughout the end. So that's good, I think. That's where things can really fall into place and solidify for you in some really tangible, concrete way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the 21st of May is the midpoint peak of the retrograde cycle, and that's when the Sun and Mercury are conjunct. So between now and the 21st, there is, with the Mercury retrograde, of going back over something, and it's, bringing up that unfinished business. And then from the 21st forward, we get to implement in some new way.
So the Sun and Mercury will
be
combine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, they will be still really in a trine to Pluto, right?
Right.
At that time. So now Pluto is the ruler of the full moon eclipse in Scorpio. It's the planet of the soul. And so, that is going to be significant. I mean, they're trining Pluto out of sign, but still only within a few degrees away.
Right.
But that is, again, the information that you now have to implement is a very mercurial word as well. So that sounds great. I mean, even feeling like you aren't, when you're in the fog, you feel powerless, right? You feel like you don't know where to go. When you know where you're going, then you feel empowered to actually move into that wave. And so that's going to feel, I think, a lot better by then.
Yeah, and absolutely. And as soon as you take one action, there's another action to take right after that, right? And Venus in Aries, Jupiter in Aries, this is experiential, right? The more you do, the more you'll know whether it's the right thing to do or whether you should be on something else, right?
That's so true.
Yeah. And on the 24th of May, Mars will move into Aries also. So
yeah.
So there's lots of energy throughout the month. Again, I think that there's no stopping. There's been just so much going on. You watch the news, and every day it's chock full of yet more stuff, right? It's not going to let up any time soon, as far as I can tell.
Right. Any predictions about what's going on in with the war? Or?
Oh, it is absolutely devastating. And, just thinking about the Scorpio archetype, the vision that you see of the total annihilation of cities and of people and so on, we have the transing nodes moving through Scorpio and Taurus. We have these eclipses and so forth. It's like, Scorpio, the Scorpio energy, and Pluto moving through the end of its tour through Capricorn, as I always say, swinging its wrecking ball on any structure, system, consciousness, or reality that's outworn its time has come. And the what's taking place in Ukraine is almost, just a symbolic representation of that whole Scorpio thing, to just, decimate everything so that it can be totally, totally rebuilt in a new way, right? It's like,
yeah,
it is totally, it's horrific. It's tragic. It's shocking. It's everything, and it is mind-boggling that the war machine continues.
It is mind-boggling.
It is mind-boggling. It should stop. Certainly, Venus in Aries, Mars in Aries, Jupiter in Aries going to intensify the fight and the drive. And I would hope that would be on the side of victory for Ukraine, and a stop to the insanity, to stop to the evil, which is really what we...
Thank goodness, isn't that what it is?
Yeah.
I was so moved, I have to say, just to end this on a really beautiful note. This 77-year-old Ukrainian woman who has saved hundreds of animals during the Russian invasion. There was a wonderful article in the Washington Post on her, whose name is escaping me right now. She just blows me away. Like what she's already endured, what she's doing for these animals. I mean, nothing is more important to her than saving the least of us, as she would say. And even selling, bartering with the soldiers. She'd give them 2 boxes of cigarettes if they would give her. She rescued actually a lion from the zoo that they were going to kill, and to feed and give that lion water. She's literally bartering, this 77-year-old woman. And so she says this, she says, responsibility is stronger than fear. That has taken over. The fear is not there for her because her responsibility, she feels, to these animals, is stronger than that. It's just so inspiring, I just have to say. But the Saturn and Aquarius squaring the nodes, both of those words, responsibility and fear, are Capricorn, Saturnian words. Saturn rules Capricorn. And so you can take charge of something, you can take responsibility for something, or you can freeze in fear. And that this woman is out there risking her life for all of these animals just like brings my soul to tears. It's just awesome.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Scorpio is about piercing through, and getting to eliminating everything, right? And we have to pierce through our fear as well too. We have to not let fear stop us from doing what we know is what is standing right in front of us that we can do.
Yeah, I mean, some things are worth, risking a high degree of comfort for.
Yeah.
Because when you look back and you think, I didn't do that, and then you're left with the other Saturn word, which is regret. Nobody wants to live with that. So that's kind of how you work with that Saturn energy or that Capricorn energy. You just, you want to feel proud of anything you've done in order to try and move things along for yourself, for those that you love, even if it's uncomfortable. Especially if it's uncomfortable, it's leading to your own evolution.
1,000%.
Evolution just doesn't come easy. That's all there is to it. It's, it's not all about, roses and such. And we know that. We know that when we've really come through a turn, when we've really worked hard for something. I mean, the success, it's so much sweeter than if we had something handed to us, right? To really get in there and work on it and know that you earned it.
Not to expect it to be easy, but it's a real bonus when it is, right?
And it can be easy. This doesn't have to be a difficult time in ways as well. I feel like when someone is moving in the most natural direction, things can become incredibly easy during an eclipse. We don't want to suggest that it's only difficult at all. So I'm just wishing everybody just some rapid movement in areas where you need it the most, and to come out the other side singing. All right. Well, we will be back before the next new moon at the end of the month, and until then, have a beautiful, powerful May. Namaste.